Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Mel. I grew up playing outside.
And I grew up doing something meaningful, watching movies and TV.
I never had cable, and we finally bought a VCR about the same time DVD players hit the market.
Throughout our marriage, Mel has sadly missed many of my pop culture references and movie quotes.
So it's time to catch up on all the films I missed.
Nick, is Mel still in school?
She is still in school, which means you are getting the note from the principal's office to get you out of class, and which your normal life is class in this metaphor.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can come to detention with me and do some studying and figure out and have some fun.
I'm down with that. It's good. Stay in school, kids. It gives me a chance. Mel, keep, educating yourself. Gives me a chance to movie it up here. My own pal. I'll do it.
The school motif is very real this time around. Do you recall what I have us lined up to watch today?
I do. Kind of. So the movie we're watching is Real Genius.
Indeed.
And I don't know a ton about this one. Usually, I come into this and I have kind of some story about why I've avoided the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I really don't have an excuse. I guess the closest thing I can come to is every time I hear the movie title, I think of Weird Science.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why I was just like, I kind of already saw that, which I have not. I'm going in with a really fresh slate on this one. I've heard of the title.
Did you just confess to me you've never seen Weird Science?
No. I've seen Weird Science. So when I hear Real Genius,
all right,
I think, I already saw that movie.
Got it. Sorry.
That's the only thing I can kind of come up with here.
It's alarming to me. It's alarming to me you've never seen Real Genius because it's amazing. Spoilers. But if you hadn't seen Weird Science too, that would have just blown my mind. Okay. So
I've heard of the title and I know that Val Kilmer's in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew those two things before this present moment.
Right.
But I have absolutely no clue what it's about other than it's a comedy that has kind of like a fantasy sci-fi element to it.
Oh,
which is why I kind of think I conflate it with Weird Science, but I don't know.
Okay. I am so I'm jealous of you in a way that I'm jealous. Like Melissa, I'm jealous of because she hasn't seen anything. So she's a fresh slate. She gets to see stuff anew, right? And she forgets that she's seen stuff. So she gets to see it anew again. But you, I'm super jealous of because you're a cinephile and you haven't seen this and you get to appreciate this for the first time. So I'm like super stoked and happy for you and very jealous.
Okay. That makes me excited to see this.
Yeah.
You're hyping. You're being the hype man.
I mean, I've seen this movie, I don't know, at least 5 times.
Oh, really?
At least, I've seen it quite a few times.
Okay.
It's very quotable. So you're probably going to have some lines kicking around in your mind afterwards. Be prepared.
Awesome.
What do you think, if you had to guess about the plot line? Take a stab at it. What do you think? If anything.
Val Kilmer is some sort of genius. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and that causes shenanigans and whatsits and foibles and all sorts of chaos with him being an attractive kind of alpha guy, but he's also really smart. He kind of has it all, Nick, but it's a house of cards. It's gonna crumble down around him.
Okay.
That is just my pure guess on this.
Whoa, I'm gonna push. Keep going.
Yeah.
Do you have more? Because I want to know what crumbling and falling apart means to you in this context.
It depends on whether Val Kilmer's not a likable guy. I don't know. He could. Okay. It's the 80s. That archetype can kind of go either way. Like the handsome leading man, he can be like a heel. And there are like dorkier dudes like Anthony Michael Hall or something who are also in the movie, and Val Kilmer's like the villain. Or he could be like a Ferris Bueller type where he's like the handsome guy, but everyone loves him. And it's like the parents who are coming down on Val Kilmer. Okay. So I don't know which way it's going to swing in that 80s kind of microcosm of life. So yeah, I don't want to guess.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times, and you said this one wasn't one you intentionally avoided. It felt like you just kind of seen it already. But is this kind of movie what you're perceiving it's going to be like? Is this the kind of movie you typically enjoy, or no?
Oh yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen it. I think it's just I missed it in my youth, and then I think we talked about this before, but there were so many other new movies coming out that I really didn't purposely go back and look at stuff. I was trying to like catch up on the here and now.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's just one it just blew by for some reason.
Well, but I'm going to ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm really excited we're watching this because of Val Kilmer.
I know.
Yeah. I love Val Kilmer, and it was very sad when I heard that he passed away at really like a relatively young age. I mean, he was only 65. Yeah.
He'd been battling cancer for like quite a while. So
yeah.
I also, though, I treasure what he has created, the joy he brought and the creativity he brought into my lives and the lives of all the people who watch his movies. And this is a great one. Like just thinking about his presence and how he lit up the screen. This is a really good one to like not have seen. So
that's awesome.
I'm really, it's a really good situation for you to be in, like when you're seeing this for the first time. So that's awesome.
Just like to me, I mean, he was in The Doors. He famously played Jim Morrison. That was huge in my house growing up. He was Batman, of course, and Batman Forever. And he was the first one to rock the nipples. Sexy nipple Batman.
Wow.
But honestly, in my house growing up, he was always Doc Holliday from Tombstone, which is my all-time favorite Western. He's just perfect in that movie.
Yeah, it's excellent. You had to bring up the bat nipples. Like
that was iconic.
That was the original Nipplegate before the Super Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like it was a big to-do. People really at the time, I remember people getting really upset that he had nipples on his suit.
Yeah. The fanboys were up in arms.
Fanboys have always been fanboys.
They don't like nipples, apparently.
They do not in their bat outfits. No. So what's the movie poster for this one? I want you to tell me what it's going to be and what our tagline is. Then we can go check things out.
Yeah, actually, and just you asked kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You even mentioned it. So I'll just reiterate, really, because I haven't seen this and it's so iconic, and then we'll get to the poster, but it sounds like this is going to happen. So I'm super excited. You know, sometimes when you're watching an older movie and they like say a line or there's a scene that you've seen people replicate or reference or make fun of, and like you never knew where it originated, and you're like, oh, that. Yeah. I'm really hoping there's something in this movie that I'll recognize as a fan of other things, where I can, do the DiCaprio point at the screen and go, that I remember that. So something iconic. Do you think there will be anything iconic like that?
I mean, yes. I don't want to spoil anything. I think there's going to be something iconic. If not iconic, then it's like there's literally scenes in this movie that still play through my head every once in a while. I was literally just like referencing it with Melissa a bit earlier today. It's just one of those things where some of the situations in your day-to-day life, you're going to like have it running through your mind as you like kind of hit certain situations. So I'm being intentionally vague right now because I don't want to spoil anything.
Of course.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you'll find some. Actually, now I'm starting to think of them. Yes, you'll probably see some.
Awesome. I'm excited. It's like archaeology.
It really is. Seeing how it trickles through.
History
probably the biggest one we've hit lately is one episode, the Is It Safe? Have you seen The Marathon Man before?
I haven't. No.
Oh my goodness. You saw Gremlins. You saw Gremlins too, though, growing up, correct?
Gremlins, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, that movie has, oh my goodness. Watch that if you haven't as an adult. There are so many like homages in that movie. It's ridiculous. But
I didn't
get them all when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, when it came out, everyone hated it, but that's has such a cult status now of being irreverent. I mean, on purpose.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I have not watched that as an adult. I think probably last time I saw it was in my 20s, and I was probably still too young to get a lot of it.
Yep.
I will have to see that.
You should check it out. So
yeah,
movie poster for Real Genius.
Some movie poster. So I'm thinking Val Kilmer. I'm thinking it's Val Kilmer looking like an alpha kind of 20s Kilmer.
Okay.
And he's putting Albert Einstein in a headlock on one arm, Stephen Hawking in a headlock on the other. You know, the physicist.
Sure.
Both in headlocks. Kilmer smiling, and he's doing this while saying the movie tagline. You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Hey, fart smellers, who's the real genius? You know, because it's like bullying them. Like Kilmer's the real genius, not those smart fellers. So he's got them in a headlock, and he's showing them who's boss. So I'm going to go with Kilmer is a heel with that assessment.
I really can't wait to have AI draw that poster. I'm really excited about that.
Me too. That's part of why I brought it up.
That's going to be delightful. Wow. And with that, I can really think of nothing better to go check it out. You ready to go check it out?
I'm your Huckleberry.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I don't want to hear about any problems, Don. Just as long as we have a working weapon by the end of June.
I haven't had a working weapon since Korea.
When the military runs short on brains, they go hunting at Pacific Tech, an exclusive institution for outstanding intellects, where the superstar of smarts is Chris Knight.
You have a jacuzzi?
Absolutely.
His hobbies violate the laws of gravity.
What are you doing out there?
Floating, sir.
His homework could win a Nobel Prize.
He's one of the 10 finest minds in the country.
And his IQ is higher than most people can count.
I can't stand it. Have you ever seen a body like this before in your life?
She happens to be my daughter.
Oh, well, then I guess you have.
But when Chris makes the scientific discovery of the century,
You did it.
his classmates want the credit.
You're not number one around here anymore.
His professor wants the publicity.
Hi.
That's it.
And the military wants to use his discovery as the ultimate weapon.
This is not good.
So Chris is about to turn getting even into a science.
Crossbow is on discriminator and all systems are go.
And show them
Roger.
Open bomb bay doors.
they should never try to outsmart
Let me have it!
a real genius.
It's no longer lacing efficiently. It's not shutting down.
Shut it down.
Real genius.
Number one is a hard time in the making.
I never get sick of seeing that movie.
It's awesome. I would say, Nick, it's real genius of you to recommend this one. See what I did there? Hold for laughs. Wait, hold. Okay. Got to build some space in there. Thank you.
Cue the laugh. Cue the laughter.
Hold for fake laughs. In there.
Oh,
No, that
actually-
was a very fun movie. Very fun.
Yeah.
Just a true showcase of Val Kilmer, really in his prime.
Dude, yes, 100%. I feel like he did Top Secret before this, and that was kind of like he was getting his sea legs, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's just the zany movie in general. But this one hits all the notes. It's got the 80s nostalgia. It's got just him being so kinetic and spastic and hyper and brilliant, and it's just a load of fun and lots of archetypes and caricatures that he gets to play with.
Yeah, he's awesome when he does comedy because it's such a unique brand of it. It's like I kind of see it as really dialed in sarcasm kind of comedy. Like he's really channeling that like biting sarcasm he does so well, but it's making you laugh while he's doing
totally.
it. I like when he's the good guy. I appreciate that.
I also do too. Can you give us a quick summary of this one?
Yeah. So, this was not Weird Science. The movie
spoilers, Chris. Spoilers.
Right. Kick that off from the start.
Yeah.
So the movie follows this engineering physics genius, who's also a 15-year-old high school student named Mitch Taylor. Mitch gets approached by the slimy and shady Professor Jerry Hathaway, asking him to come study at Pacific Tech University. And just want to pause there. Hathaway is played by the really brilliant professional heel, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
William Atherton, who
yes,
you know him well as the EPA jerk trying to shut down the Ghostbusters.
Yes,
or storing too many ghosts in their vault.
First off, hot take here, diversion. Do you think he's worse as the EPA guy or worse as the reporter from Die Hard?
EPA guy. Because who tries to shut down the Ghostbusters in the middle of a ghost epidemic? I mean, I get where you're coming from with Die Hard, but
with Die Hard,
man, there are ghosts running around the city, and you're trying to shut down the Ghostbusters?
He threatens to deport a woman so he can exploit the children of people in a hostage situation, like in Die Hard.
That's pretty bad. But ghosts are scary.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Not as scary as Hans Gruber, though, in my opinion. But agree to disagree.
So anyway, Hathaway, he wants Mitch because he is, surprise, surprise, doing something shady. He is working on a special laser project at the college that is secretly being funded by the CIA. So essentially, Hathaway is taking the CIA's money that they're paying him to kind of run like a professional operation to build this laser.
Mm-hmm.
He's pocketing all the money, and then he's recruiting these student geniuses to the university to get them to build the project.
So schmarmy.
Yeah, and what that project is, it's a laser, but it's really a Reagan-era Star Wars space laser that can conduct political assassinations. So
of course.
Extra shady.
Yeah.
The students don't know that, though. They just think they're doing like a science project or a school project, essentially, on channeling energy.
They just want to get a grade in a job. That's all they're there.
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking about. Mm-hmm.
So Mitch is 15, but he agrees to leave high school and he goes to the college, and he ends up rooming with Chris Knight, who's played by Val Kilmer. And I'm just going to call him Val Kilmer now because he's being Val Kilmer-y. Fair. This movie is so Val Kilmer, you got to go that route. So Kilmer was once really the most promising student in the school. But when Mitch arrives, he's turned into somewhat like a goof off and a slacker. And that's all because he starts to suspect that maybe the work he's doing for the school and Hathaway isn't really what it seems. He starts to kind of get a little jaded. And he tells Mitch that things really changed for him when he met former Pacific Tech student named Laszlo, who was once the smartest person in the school. But unfortunately, he had a nervous breakdown upon learning that the project he was working on was being used to kill people.
That'll do
foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this part because it's so bizarre. Laszlo lives in hidden tunnels under the school that are only accessible through Mitch and Val Kilmer's closet.
Yep.
And I love this part in the movie where Mitch, he keeps seeing Laszlo going into the room. He's just sleeping or studying. He goes in the closet and disappears. Yeah. And he's trying to figure out how it works. And one time it happens when Val Kilmer's there, and Mitch is like, "Did you see that guy? What's with that guy coming into our room?" And Val Kilmer goes, "You see him too?" Basically implying he thought he was crazy all along, but he wasn't. It's sarcasm. I love that scene because it's very Kilmer-y.
What did you think the first time you saw the guy go into the closet? What were you thinking?
I honestly, because again, I didn't know a lot about this, but it was called a sci-fi comedy. I was going Portal, Rick and Morty style. Not to another interdimensional portal, but like
Sure.
a portal somewhere that
Yeah.
a student opened up, or like alternate dimension kind of.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then it turns out to be very practical. Kind of.
It's
He
super.
goes through a hole and gets in like this roller coaster mine cart thing.
Yeah,
That like takes him through all these tunnels.
Yeah.
That part was pretty out there. Wild.
So bizarre. And you're seeing a 15-year-old get in that tiny car and he is like scrunched in it. So picturing the grown man in there is just also levels of bizarre as you're watching him go through.
So anyway, Kilmer, after seeing Laszlo, thinks maybe the same thing could happen to him if he just keeps studying and pressing and working essentially to the bone for Hathaway. So he started to kind of lighten up and start partying 80s style, college style.
Yeah.
And becomes kind of the class partier. And then another character in their dorm is Jordan Cochran, and she's like a very zany, hyperactive genius who Mitch eventually falls in love with.
Of course.
But that's which is a trope, and I'll get to that in a sec. But what's also very 80s, but also great, is the dorm is full of crazy geniuses like that, like Laszlo, like Jordan, like Val Kilmer, and they're all doing like weird genius stuff all the time. Like they're in one scene, they cover all the halls with chemical ice so they can have an ice skating party in the middle of summer.
Yeah. What else are you gonna do?
I love that part.
You gotta break the tension from all the studying, Chris.
Yeah. It gets stressful when you're a genius.
It sure does.
And then on the other side, those are all the good geniuses, but of course there are bad geniuses too. So helping Hathaway is a fellow student named Kent, and he's like a hardcore brown noser kind of dork who tries at every turn to get Val Kilmer and Mitch first kicked off the laser project, but then like ultimately out of the college. Essentially, he's jerk. The main bad guy.
He is such a jerk. He's played so well though. Like you really something about 80s, like whenever they're like nerdy, like guys you want to hate, they were really good in the 80s. He's an archetypal. When I think of like nerds, bad nerds that make my skin crawl, he's definitely Kent is one of the tops. He's got that turtleneck and his like his yellow feathered hair and the
80s knew how to make like a good evil square kind of guy.
Totally.
The T, very myopic, focused on being a square and like getting the partiers.
Yeah.
Same with Hathaway. I mean, like that's another trope. But again, I'll get to that in a sec. So anyways, Kent's snitching on them all the time to Professor Hathaway. And Hathaway starts getting sick of all the partying Val Kilmer and Mitch are doing. And so he threatens to kick him out of school if they don't finish the laser. So this kind of is a wake-up call for Val Kilmer, and they both decide to buckle down. And they actually succeed in creating the laser, and when they test it, they burn a hole straight through everything in its way in campus, like a softball-sized hole through like statues, and no one dies.
It even goes all the way through into town, doesn't it? And it like hits one of the poster, like the billboards where there's a burger or something and the smoke is coming off of it.
Where they all go to hang out, like that burger shop.
Yeah.
So they're all like happy. They're like, yay, we're going to graduate. Hathaway's not going to kick us out. But they start talking to Laszlo about this, the genius turned crazy. And he kind of says, just take a few small tweaks of that laser to turn into a weapon. And so Val Kilmer and Mitch are kind of like, oh God, what did we do? And they panic and they rush to the lab to try and destroy the laser, and it's gone. Hathaway's taken it. He's taken it to the CIA, and guess what? They're about to test it in action. So that kind of ushers in the third act where Val Kilmer, Mitch, and Laszlo team up. They end up tracking down the laser with the help of Kent
and a fake mustache. Oh, the Kent shtick too. That was hilarious.
They get Kent to admit that he knows where the laser went by tuning into his braces and making him think that God is talking to him.
Yes.
By broadcasting through his lasers into his mouth,
I always wondered if you could find a frequency and use and do that. I wonder if anyone's ever tried that in real life. Because they have nowadays, they have those bone induction headphones, you know? Like you just have them sitting on your jawline or your temples and you can hear the music that you're listening to or whatever.
That's true.
I think someone's probably tried it. I would bet at least $2 that someone's tried that before to see if it's
I'm sure. I wouldn't want to try it myself.
No, me neither. Me neither. Yeah.
So they track down the laser, and they sneak into the Air Force plane, which okay.
Yeah.
And they reprogram it. I mean, they're geniuses, Nick. So if anyone can do it, they can.
Yeah.
They reprogram it to, instead of like blowing up all these targets for the Pentagon and the CIA, they have it so that it blasts Professor Holloway's house, which he's been funneling all of this CIA money into, channels the laser into the house, where Val Kilmer is playing the world's largest Jiffy Pop container that you've ever seen in your life. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet in the dude's living room.
Yeah. I think I read it took them like a month to set up for that shot or something.
Oh,
it was just crazy how long it took them to get the popcorn set up, to like actually pop all of it. It was just an insane amount of popcorn. It was crazy.
It reminded me when I was a teenager, I worked in a movie theater, and me and all my friends worked there. Like even the managers were my friends. So, you can imagine how that went.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, they would dump all of the popcorn into these large plastic bags. Like really, they'd be like 5-foot tall bags full of popcorn. And we would just take them home and eat them. It's just like eat them for like a week.
Nice.
So maybe they raided movie theaters for the leftover popcorn.
I actually I was curious to see how my memory was. So I checked with AI and it said that it took them 3 months to pop the popcorn. And they just had a machine running all day to produce enough popcorn for the scene.
Oh, that's nice.
And then they eventually hired a popcorn company to deliver 100 tons of fully popped popcorn as well. Like that's just an insane amount of work for that one scene.
Yeah.
Which is like, what, 2 minutes maybe?
Well, yeah. The beauty of practical effects, though, because it shows.
Oh, and that I told you while it was happening too. I'm like, this is just the perfect ending to an 80s movie. There's a great song that comes in. It's slow-mo. There's kids laughing and throwing the popcorn, and the main characters are like laughing and they've won. And it's such a good ending. It's really, really good.
Yeah, the laser's like popping all the popcorn, just to describe for people. It's shooting out of the windows. It like blasts Kent out the front door, who happened to wander in the middle of it. And eventually Hathaway shows up, the classic, like grabbing his head at his house. And the best part, the backstory is Hathaway hates popcorn. It's like his least favorite thing in the world. And so, classic comeuppance to the bad guy, to the heel. And then also Kilmer and Mitch, they've called a U.S. congressman to Hathaway's house to kind of witness all this for himself. And it's kind of like it's inferring that the congressman's going to do something about this. Like, that's a big stretch in the movie. But, actually take this nefarious CIA plan down. So it's extra comeuppance because the hope is like Hathaway not only has his house blown up by popcorn, but will get arrested and the laser won't see the light of day and the good guys won.
Yeah. And I think, like I took that away as, first off, if a senator shows up in the middle of nowhere in a suit at like 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday or something like that, it's probably he's gonna make something happen. Somehow they got him invested in it. And I think it was two-pronged too. Like the fact that it misfired, it like tanked their chance to even think it was successful. So the laser failed, and then hopefully the senator is going to go after the whole program and just in general. That's kind of what I was thinking, at least.
Yeah, definitely. Like he's going to launch an investigation of what the CIA is doing. They're going to see that they're doing illegal assassinations of domestic and foreign people.
And everyone will pretend to be surprised that the CIA would do something like that, especially in the 80s. Yeah.
So it's definitely like a major takedown of the establishment 80s
Yes.
style, which was a beautiful way to cap it.
Yeah, totally. So there's a lot to unpack from everything you just said. What were some of your favorite moments? How did you feel after seeing this one?
Yeah, like remember we were talking about I was like, am I going to recognize anything in this, or is there a reference or a quote that looking back now I'll be like, oh, that's where that came from. There wasn't really one scene like that, and there wasn't necessarily one exact scene that was my favorite, but what I loved about it was just how overall how delightfully 80s it was. Like you know, there were just so many 80s tropes in this that I think combined with other movies helped lead to the stereotype of that decade. And I'm just going to list a few. So it had montages.
Of course.
They're like studying montages, failing montages, partying montages. It had nerds turned heroes, another trope of the 80s. It had the shady 80s military industrial complex, like behind the scenes. It had a wild college with a crusty dean or a crusty professor, like trying to take down the wild college.
Yeah.
Had like the alpha Jesus protagonist with like hidden issues, like a complex Ferris Bueller kind of person in Val Kilmer. It had the hot nerdy girl best friend that was really just one makeover away from being beautiful in Jordan. Tons of Cold War undertones of just like that bubbling under the surface, kind of driving all this. And then, which we just mentioned, the feel good comeuppance for the heels and the crusty dean while sticking it to the man. I mean, that's definitely like an 80-licious.
100%. It had lots of great one-liners too. Like this was only your first viewing, so some of them you've got to watch at least one more time just to hear all of them because there's so many of them. I'm going to give you a couple right now. You ready?
Okay.
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, "I drank what?" And I think my favorite one is where he talks. He's at a job interview, kind of, or he's going to a place he's got to get the job, just a meet and greet, and he's wearing a headband with those like springs with balls on the end. And they said, "Why are you wearing that on your head?" And he responds, "If I wear it anywhere else, it would chafe."
Yeah, that was a good one. Classic Kilmer right there. And you mentioned the music. I mean, those are quotes, but you were talking about the closing music in this. The music was awesome in the movie. And the closing theme song is Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which was a brand new song in 1985. And it made me think, like, can you imagine hearing that song for the first time? There are people who heard that song probably for the first time watching this movie.
Yeah, totally.
And it just like blows my, it's just one of the songs that seems like it's always been around forever. Like I can't remember the first time I heard that song. It's just been like in the culture my entire life, it seems.
It's such a great song.
Yeah. Especially for this movie. It was like a perfect cap to this movie.
Totally.
It's like deep but poppy, and I mean the theme of it kind of fits in. It was a perfect choice.
Absolutely. The montages you mentioned, when you said earlier they focused and got the laser done, do you think they would have been able to complete the laser had it not been via montage?
I'm sure they would have, but the movie would have been like
a lot longer.
Days long. Yeah, you would have seen them doing a lot of trial and error, making hypotheses, testing those hypotheses.
I wonder sometimes about montages. Like, of course, there's your Rocky montages, right, where you're like training and you're showing whatever. But nerd montages are a little different because they don't always cover like the laser one. That's like kind of a cool thing, like. But they literally did a montage about like studying, which is pretty much the most boring thing you could cover, like in a montage. So I often wonder, like, where did it evolve from? Were they just like, this is so boring, we have to do something to spice it up? Or I don't know. It makes me wonder
I think
the first person.
I think that's the core.
Yeah.
I mean, one, it's a device to kind of move the story forward without taking forever. But yeah, I think it's to encapsulate something boring in an exciting way and also move the story forward.
Yeah.
Like, because you see those montages in when people are falling in love. There's love montages where they're riding the Ferris wheel. They're licking at ice cream.
Chris, did you just call falling in love boring?
Well, no. If you're falling in love, that's great. Watching someone fall in love, that is pretty boring.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, I think if you're listening, Melissa, falling in love was not boring. But it like completely, usually it's things that are more exciting and engaging, or that you have experience or fond memories of, that they montage. And that's where I was getting with, like, completely boring, banal things, like a montage of watching paint dry. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Why even cover it? Like, why even make it spicy? Like, I feel like there was an innovation. There was a writer's room talk at some point, and they were like, we got to contend with all this studying or something. And then someone said, let's just slap a montage on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got to be a fly in the wall and figure that out someday. So
hey, I gotta bring up something about when this movie came out. And it actually ties into why I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
But first, so this movie came out in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
Just the embarrassment of riches of movies that came out in 1985. Dude, you have to, I'm going to list some here. Because I was thinking about this and I'm like, yeah, a lot. And then I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, good Lord. Like, you have to check out this murderer's row of movies that were released in 85.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future, Goonies, Clue, Rocky IV, speaking of montages, classic one in that. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Cocoon, Rambo Part 2, First Blood, like the best Rambo, Teen Wolf, Fright Night. My personal favorite horror movie, Return of the Living Dead, came out in 1985. Reanimator, Explorers. Dude, those are all in 1 year. Like, okay, you get like one movie of that caliber.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you get one movie of that caliber a year.
If you're
those
lucky.
are all in the same year.
It's insane.
And
I don't know if it was a conspiracy, if they were just holding on to things. Because, like, what are they, like, Back to the Future and Teen Wolf, those are both Michael J. Fox. Yeah. And he was doing a TV show. He was like a major broadcast television star when he did those. Like, it was weird. I think he may have actually had a DeLorean and he just went through time to film both of the movies or something.
I have seen interviews with him that he said he did not sleep in 1984 and 1985.
Yeah.
He just worked.
That's so wild.
But yeah, like in terms of holding things, 1984 was just as packed too. Like if you look at it's just the 80s, the mid 80s especially, were just a treasure trove of movies. And speaking of 85, so how I was saying I avoided this movie because I've confused it with Weird Science, or it wasn't, just to elaborate a little more, it wasn't that I thought they were the same movie. I just thought that this was kind of like a crappy knockoff of Weird Science.
Oh.
Or just like the same, like how they do that, where a movie will come out and then a very similar movie that's not as good comes out, and they're
Deep Impact and Armageddon. Like,
100%. Well, it turns out I wasn't that far off. So Weird Science, that was also released in 1985, released August 2nd, 1985.
Okay.
Was Weird Science. Real Genius released the very next weekend. August 9th, 1985. Those two movies were released a week apart from each other.
So they were racing to the box office, basically.
Yeah,
you have studios that do that all the time. They'll have a script that's very similar, or they'll catch wind that one studio is about to do that kind of a script, so then they race to doing two. Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
And I mean, they're very different movies.
They're so different. So different.
there are nerds in both, and like they both use technology, I guess. But other than that, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't really. High school, maybe, but yeah, I mean, they're very different. But I feel like they were marketed probably to the same audiences.
I bet they were very similar feel, irreverent, kid like teens doing crazy stuff, and I'm sure that's what all the stuff was. Wow. So do you think this movie holds up in general? Like, do you think it holds up well, or do you think parts of it haven't aged that well?
No, I think it holds up. I mean, I guess the reason I'm kind of hemming and hawing, there are parts of it that it holds up as an 80s movie.
Sure.
If you re-release this today as a new movie, I don't know if it would hold up, but so I guess I'm saying it's hard to answer that question because I'm viewing it in 2025, having seen all of those movies we just listed, and then everything else that's similar. And I mean, that said, on one hand, it might make me go easier on the movie because there's the nostalgia factor, but you could also, it could be harder too, like, because you're comparing it to those movies. So I'll say that as a movie on its own, I really enjoyed it. I thought it held up in its entertainment value. There were some parts of it that I don't think really translate to 2025, but overall, I think it's a fun movie to watch. I think people would dig it if they haven't seen it. Yeah.
Like one thing that doesn't hold up well that people might not understand is filling out Frito-Lay contests with a paper form and then mailing them in.
Yeah. Well,
which is what the genius character in The Walls does. He fills out like what did you say, like 1 million of them or something? He's got like machines doing them.
He used an algorithm to automatically fill out Frito-Lay subscriptions.
He's got all the pencils hooked up to the machine, so it's like doing the fill out stuff. Yeah.
Similar to that, not to relive all of my high school jobs, but another job I had as a high schooler was a bagger and pop can return person, where you used to take your pop cans in to get the deposit back.
That's soda for people outside of the Midwest.
Yeah, sorry. Including where I live. My kids call it. And I cringe every time I hear it.
Compromise, soda pop.
Yeah. Anyway, when I was working there, Squirt and Sprite were doing this contest where you collect like receipts on the box to earn, kind of like Marlboro miles, but it was with pop.
Sure.
And all the baggers were all walking around all the swank squirt gear because people would bring their boxes of cans back in the box, and we would just take all of the receipts and then cash them in. It was an easy racket to get a starter jacket that said Squirt on it.
What a coveted piece.
we were rolling high in Squirt drip. It was sweet. Wow. But anyway, in terms of things that don't translate, what I'm thinking of and why I was kind of hemming and hawing, like the female characters in this movie are very 80s. They are not really well rounded. And there's kind of a really kind of messed up moment. And we were laughing about this, but there's a whole B story that there's like a genius groupie, like a woman who works at this corporation that has ties to the school, and they're basically trying to poach the students to become employees, right? And one of the people at the corporation is this woman, and she starts going on about how she's ranked a top 10 list of geniuses in the world and how she wants to make whoopee, so to say, with each. And you see her working her way down this list through the movie until she eventually gets to 15-year-old Mitch. And she goes to his dorm room and he's 15 years old.
Yes.
She goes and she's maybe like 30, you think?
At least. She's probably a little older than that, yeah.
She goes to his dorm room and basically throws herself at him.
Yeah.
But Nick, this is you and I were like, I don't know. Awkward. But here's the thing: the movie handles it that it's a dilemma for Mitch.
Yes.
That he has this golden opportunity.
Yes.
and he's gonna throw it away because he's in love with the nerd Jordan.
How dare he?
It's like that's the take the movie had. So I don't think that translates to today.
That is so 70s and 80s culture.
Yeah, I know.
Like so many movies and TV shows have talked about that, and you get it a little in the 90s. I think it starts to taper off a bit. I mean, what was it? Fountains of Wayne, Stacy's mom. That song was huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. That was definitely one of the more awkward parts of the movie.
It was like out of nowhere too.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I'm just glad Mitch he felt empowered though. He was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I know what I want. And then he goes and he falls in love with the 19-year-old, which is still
yeah, the other adult who lives with in his dorm.
Yes. So you know what they say, Chris, 2 wrongs make a right, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. He's a genius. He's mentally more mature than 15.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. If you were a genius in this dorm and you were like living there, what do you think your specialty would be?
Like in academics?
Yeah.
Or just like...
Well, I mean, if you look at him, Chris was in physics. Mitch was like lasers, which is physics too. And then there was the guy who was really into like ice engineering. Then the girl was into mechanical engineering. She was building sleds and like scuba gear. And Kent was an expert at being a douche. And you know, so what do you think your expertise would be?
Yeah, I think I would be kind of along the lines of Chris, where he makes really insane contraptions and then uses them to annoy people around school, or just be like pranky and funny. So like in one scene you show up and Val Kilmer has turned what looks like maybe a vacuum cleaner into some kind of weird spinning, like flying. It basically would be a drone today, but it's like circular and it kind of looks. It's on the poster.
It's a gyroscope. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Thank you. And he uses it and flies all around and annoys people. I would probably that and partying. I'd be my big contribution to the nerd place
would be the party guy.
Yeah, which I wanted to talk to you about. They one of the tropes. They have a big blow off steam party during finals, where they take this old theater and convert it into basically a pool party, but they call it a tanning party. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Like, what? You talk a tanning party? Like that must have been like an 80s slang or something that we. I didn't. I get tanning, but why call it a tanning party?
I'm guessing.
Not a pool party.
I don't know why. I'm guessing. My answer was going to be they called it a tanning party just to ensure that people would be in bathing suits. But wouldn't a pool party do the same thing?
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they lured the beauty salon people over. I don't know why I said salon instead of salon.
Yeah,
I did.
Val Kilmer charms the beauty school.
Yes, they get the beauty school to come over. So maybe he tricked them by saying it was, something to do with tanning, and they needed that for their grade, like extracurricular or something like that on paper. They needed it to be like an activity or an outing, and they get extra credit or something sneaky like that.
But to have that party, this is where I think my specialty would come in. Yeah. They have all these zany accoutrements of the party to make it epic. Like it's in a theater, but they made this crazy like waterfall circulating fountain / pool thing for the pool. They have like a toxic waste barrel thing kind of as the grill. Yes. They have an airplane emergency slide as the water slide going into the pool. It's like an epic 80s pool movie. So it took geniuses to party like that.
That's such a Rorschach test of you right there. You don't just see it as a barrel grill, which is very common. You're like, it's a toxic barrel, like the toxic Avenger.
I swear I saw something out there.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. We'll have to go back to the tape.
I have to go watch it again. Okay. Fine. I just think of Toxic, Toxie, the Toxic Avenger in those movies.
They're making a new one.
I think I heard that. Yeah.
Do you know who Toxie is? You're never
read
gonna
it.
guess in 5,000 years.
It was a while ago that it was happening. It was some serious actor, I thought.
Yeah.
I remember being shocked at who it was, but I can't remember who it was. Who is it?
Peter Dinklage is the new Toxie.
From Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
And
Tyrion,
yeah.
I think that's awesome.
That's gonna be
leave
wild.
the trauma to do something off the wall. So
totally
kudos to them.
Totally. I think back to the party. If I were in, this scene in this movie, I would be one of two things. I would either be robot nerd, like making life like robots, right?
Okay.
Or I would be language nerd, and I would be like talking in Elvish or a language that I made up, like Klingon or something like that. I'd be one of those, and it would kind of like get into that. There would be an ongoing shtick of like everybody saying the catchphrase of like Shova or whatever the Klingon is, and
you could use it to get around the shady professor or crusty dean by speaking your own language.
Absolutely.
Lots of practical applications.
Totally practical applications. So I'm going to show you now some posters. Are you ready to see your posters? Do you remember what you said? You remember what you said your poster was?
I do. And I'm sad it didn't show up in this movie. Now I get to see it. So I guess
you get to see it. So you said it was going to be Val Kilmer. He was going to be like a jock, basically. And he was going to be putting, the bad guy. And he was going to be putting Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking in a headlock under each arm. And then he would, what was the tagline again?
He was going to say, "Hey, fart smellers, who's the real genius?"
Yeah. So take a look at what AI created for you. Go ahead and look at that. Now,
it looks okay. Not your finest work, but
it gets better, Chris. This is a special edition, okay? I have quite a few because of all the movie posters I've made with AI, headlocking for some reason drove AI insane. Why don't you go ahead?
That's how we're going to take down the machines.
Yes. Did you notice this poster? There's like 3 arms in it. His shoulders in the center, and then he's got an arm around each size. And both of the guys look like Albert Einstein. Okay, look at the next one. Scroll down.
Okay.
This was the very first one. And I was like, oh, well, okay, he's got the guys, whatever. That looks somewhat normal. Keep going down.
Now they're kind of headlocking him.
Yes.
And it's still not Stephen Hawking. AI does not know who Stephen Hawking is.
It does not.
Is ironic.
Go down to the next one. So
now it's them like 2 dudes in suits who look like dads, and then the Val Kilmer dude looks like a little boy, and they're all like wrestling. They're like playhousing each other.
It's an infinite loop of people headlocking each other. It's like those drawings you have where you see like an old woman, then you see a young woman, except they keep like swirling in and out of each other. Look at the very next one now.
They're just 2 gray-haired men hugging a smiling, douchey-looking guy.
Did you notice what the gray-haired looking men look like, though? They look like puppets.
Yeah.
I started thinking they were actual like marionettes and puppets.
Yeah. You know what? I'm encouraged by this. I feel like we're still smarter than AI. We're the real geniuses here.
Yeah, we really are. Of all the ones
it keeps getting worse.
It keeps getting worse. The next one has the mannequins on the shoulders. And then the one after that, it's again, I did not put in mannequin as a prompt. Although at least AI was starting to have like an Einstein looking one and then one that doesn't look like Einstein.
Yeah.
And then if you go one more down, it actually gets to one that looks just like Albert Einstein because it literally looks like him.
Yeah.
And then one that kind of looks like Stephen Hawking's, but they're all hugging. So obviously couldn't use that.
AI thinks a headlock is a hug, which someone needs to give AI a newbie and teach it. It's comeuppance.
Yeah. So those are the AI posters. Why don't you go ahead and look at the
I'm
actual.
thinking it all.
Aren't they
they're creeping me out now. AI, come on, you can do better.
There's
yes, I'm on the real one now. So Val Kilmer is looking very Kilmer-y. He has that flying gyroscope thing we were just talking about.
And the bunny slippers, and he's got his little like headset, his little, why can't I think of headband?
And you know what, Nick? Like this poster, it makes you think it's a sci-fi movie. I've seen this poster a long time ago, like over 20 years ago.
Right.
And it makes you think it's a sci-fi movie. It is not a sci-fi movie at all.
No,
it's just like a comedy drama.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the catalyst for everyone is sci-fi, I guess, the laser, but it's like 5 minutes of the whole movie.
I don't know if you noticed when you explained to me the poster, when you were trying to guess what it was, I kind of paused for a second when you said Einstein. Look a little bit further down at what the Blu-ray poster looks like, what they did for the Blu-ray cover. It's like literally, it's Val Kilmer with his arm around Einstein, and they each have sweatshirts of the other's head on.
And the tagline is "Meet Chris Knight, the Einstein of the '80s."
Yeah. So
that's actually horrifyingly awful. Is that for real? The Blu-ray cover?
That's for real. The Blu-ray cover.
Oh my gosh! They should stick with Val Kilmer.
Twirling
the gyroscope on his finger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they can't rely on the 80s now that they're trying to sell it now. They're like, what's a timeless thing? Einstein's timeless.
All right, maybe kids these days don't know Einstein. They don't know.
Maybe they don't. He's in enough movies though. Einstein's been in a lot of movies, Chris. And he did other stuff too, I think. But I know he's been in a lot of movies.
Yeah, he has.
He was an Oppenheimer. So there you go.
That's true. Yeah, the kids know him from
the kids know him from there. All right. So what, if any, messages do you think were in this movie, Chris?
Yeah, and this is also a kind of a trope of 80s, or I should say like Gen X films. And I actually love the message of this film. I thought it was amazing. And I loved the way they presented it because it was very hidden under all the silliness. There was kind of a true message to take away. And again, it is so Gen X. And that message is, if all you do is work and toil away from the man all day, you're going to burn out and miss life. And I think that's a theme in quite a few teen films from the 80s. I mean, a lot of John Hughes movies, especially Ferris Bueller. I mean, that's kind of the point of Ferris Bueller, is that
life goes by pretty fast. If you don't slow down every once in a while, you might miss it. Yeah.
Might miss it. Yeah. And thinking about this, I really wonder if that's the result of Gen X realization as a generation, that story that was told for years to baby boomers, that if you work hard for the company and you keep your nose to the grindstone, that you'll finally achieve the American dream of success. And that, of course, was all propaganda. I think we're coming to realize now, especially, but back in the 80s, I feel like Gen X kind of started to wake up from that, and realize that in reality, if all you get, if you slave for the man, is you make someone else rich, or in this case, you feed the war machine. Like, you contribute to needless destruction. It's not benefiting you at all. In fact, they'll burn you out and they'll eat you up and spit you out, and they don't care about you. The machine doesn't care about you.
The machine doesn't care about you.
No. And I think that's a very key generational difference in the ideology between Gen Xers and their parents, the baby boomers. And I think it started to kind of emerge in these mid-'80s movies, and it's really only grown. I mean, I would say that ideology is now fully embraced by like millennials and especially Gen Z.
Well, just for people who may not actually know what Gen X is, I feel like Gen X isn't talked about as much as baby boomers, millennials, and Gen Z, and now Alpha.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Gen X is like not referenced that much or even in the conversation a lot.
Yeah.
But I think, given the context of this being 1985, right? I think Gen X in that time was probably just coming fresh off of like watching their parents for their whole childhood, just like burn themselves out. And then they're like, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with you or see you. Like, do I want to live that life too? Kind of a deal. And I think the message of this movie is you need to have at least 3 to 4 good quips a week. or else you're not going to be successful in life.
So humor and sarcastic Kilmer quipping is the message.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think the message is. But there was another message that was a revelation for me when we watched this movie. And that was, this movie had glimpses of Kilmer's future in it. Do you remember the scene I started tripping out over?
Isn't he wearing Batman slippers?
He goes into the kitchen, and he like knocks into the ice machine, and or the freezer, and out falls his liquid nitrogen, which he uses to get free coffee. He like cuts little coins of it, but he's wearing Batman slippers.
Yeah, that's right.
And he will go on to play Batman in Batman Forever.
Yeah,
and that just blew my mind that was happening. And then I was like, wait a minute, are there any other Kilmer moments in this movie? And then I thought about it as we kept going. There's the scene where he's in the room, in the classroom, and he's doing his coin trick like he does in Tombstone as Doc Holliday. Yeah. That one, I think I give myself a 0.5 for that. That's not a full one. That's just Kilmer. Kilmer
can do it. Points. Yeah.
He also
he brought that to Tombstone. Maybe it wasn't in the script.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Because he also did it in The Saint as well. I'm pretty sure he did coin tricks in The Saint too. There was also the fact that there's a jet airplane that he goes into, and a year later he was going to be in Top Gun, where he's a jet fighter pilot.
Yeah. That was a stretch, but sure, I'll award a quarter point.
And then my biggest stretch of the ball, which I think you shot down, but I was really trying to buy into this theory, was one of his shirts. He had a shirt for the Monkees, which was a 70s fake rock band. And he went on to play Jim Morrison of The Doors, which was a real 70s rock band.
I cannot award points for that, sir.
Oh.
That stretched so thin it broke.
Oh, I tried.
Yeah.
The Batman one's legit, though, because that's crazy.
No, the Batman is. And then I'll give you the coin flip thing on his knuckles. I guarantee he brought that to his movies. Yeah.
Now I just want to watch the whole movie again with the lens of like, are there future predictions of what's going to happen in his career in this movie?
Yeah.
Although, wait a minute, he didn't wear it, but The Saint is all about him wearing different masks and disguises. And there's a whole disguise thing at one point in the movie. So that's a maybe.
It all ties together.
So
what you're saying is I should record myself in this moment in time for about 2 hours. Yes. And my entire future will be revealed. I'm going to try that.
As long as you have a good set of writers who make a good script for you. Yes.
Well, I'll have to find them.
You should. All right, sir. Well, thank you for this going back to school and indulging me and letting me show you this wonderful, excellent film.
I loved it. I was glad to see it, and it's not weird science, so 2 thumbs up for me.
I feel like I'm going to get you a shirt that says "Real Genius" and not weird science.
No, I understand now. They're very different.
I
feel happy that I know the difference now, and I can look at the Real Genius poster and know it has nothing to do with weird science.
That's what we do here at Film Lag. We touch hearts and open up minds. We make people whole through their cinematic journey in life.
I'm a whole man.
You're a whole man. Well, until next time, sir, that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Tell us what you think of this film in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.